everybody, it's Leslie Dale for the TFP, and we are here to dissect the debate for you. So we are going to cut into this thing. Y'all ready? Okay, first and foremost, I want to do introductions telling our viewers here, our readers, about what kind of perspective we are all able to add. So, Ellis, let's start with you.
The reason she started with me is because I didn't watch the entire debate. I'm Ellis Smith. I'm the digital editor, and I'm hoping to learn a lot from this conversation.
He says he's going to be the dummy at the table, but that's really not the case because he's very smart and knows a lot. Okay, I did watch the debate. I took my notes. If somebody's trying to call me, not right now. Okay, I took notes on my phone, the good digital reporter I am. So as a reporter, I'm going to be weighing in on what I observed and also your comments to us on our social media and Twitter. So that's what perspective I'm able to add as a reporter.
And I'm Pam Sohn. I'm the editor of the Times editorial page, and I did watch the entire debate.
I'm Clint Cooper, and I'm the editor of the Chattanooga Free Press editorial page, and I also watched the entire debate.
That leaves me as the odd man out.
Yes.
So tell me, what did I miss?
Okay. Well, Lester Holt was missing as well.
He was missing?
Missed a little bit. We'll get into that later.
So he took a more passive stance?
Well, he wasn't there for most of it.
Okay.
Or you couldn't hear him. So we're going to get into that later. But first and foremost, again, there's a lot of firsts going on last night. The first woman presidential nominee to be involved in this debate, obviously, Hillary Clinton. And then the first man who's never been in politics to be involved in this sort of TV political debate, Donald Trump, Republican side, Hillary on the Democratic side. So it was a history made last night. We'll all agree on that. We can all agree on that. Right, Ellis? History was made last night.
I'll go with that. Yeah.
Okay.
Even if you didn't watch it?
It felt historical. There was electricity in the air.
Okay, and real quick, let's talk about what we were all doing to watch the debate. That was certainly interesting. A lot of people, so many people watched last night. Do we have a number on how many people watched? Do we know?
I have not seen that.
It was supposed to be, I think the projections were...
74% of Americans.
Supposed to be 80 to 100 million is what I had heard.
Wow. All right, so where were you when you watched some of it?
It was in my house. It was on the upstairs television.
Okay. I actually stayed home. I picked up Mexican food and beer. Something in me felt like...
Were you alone?
Well, you saw someone else while you were out getting a similar meal.
I did, yes. I saw our columnist, Jay Greason, out doing the same thing I was doing.
The exact same thing.
So some people like us obviously associated during the debate with doing something bad or indulgent. I don't know why.
Did it have anything to do with immigration as an issue?
No, it really didn't. I just felt like I need to have some sort of comfort food.
Yeah.
Should we have been doing something bad while we were watching?
Well, I felt like
a lot of people did the drinking game, of course. Where
Right.
But I didn't have a scorecard, a bingo card. But I know a lot of people did.
Yes. Yeah, there were all the sniffs, every
time there's an eye roll,
there I go.
Or every time build that wall is said, or emails, then you take a shot.
Right.
But you would be probably dead.
Definitely in the hospital.
Depending on the word.
Okay,
and the interruptions, way too many interruptions.
Yeah, we'll try not to do that today. We're just getting started. And so where were you, Pam? Where were you?
I was in my home office, and I was watching the debate on my iPad while I surfed the live chats about it on my computer.
Okay.
That's cool. And so sort of watching it with a community of people, that's neat.
Pam has her notes as well, did her homework.
I was also in my home office at my home because my wife would not allow me to watch it in her presence.
That would have been another debate.
Exactly.
Potentially.
So I had my laptop in my lap.
With the headphones on?
No headphones.
Okay, so you were allowed to have volume coming out.
I was allowed to have volume because there was a door between my son's room and my room, and my wife, there was a hallway between my office and where she was.
Okay.
So what was it that David Carroll said? About the debate. We got home.
Oh, right.
We got home for the debate, and there was a lot of yelling and fighting, and
then we turned the TV on.
And then we turned the TV on. That's funny, David.
David, that's
You're a funny
on
man.
his Facebook. He is funny. Okay, let's start at the beginning. So Hillary walked out in red. Donald walked out with a blue tie, and you could hear her say, "How are you, Donald?" You could hear her say that, and it was light for just a moment, and it kind of started out a little stiff for me, at least, watching them with just the first question, though. And then it got heated. So what did you guys think about the initial interaction and the first thoughts from both of them? Hillary spoke first, and then the Donald.
Well, I expected it to start light. I also expected it to get heated pretty quickly.
As it did.
I thought the same thing. I mean, if they came out with and began fisticuffs right there, that would also be breaking new ground for
Yeah, if
debate.
there was an actual
So-
fist fight during the debate.
Exactly. So I thought, just them coming out, and they do know each other. So,
So
beyond.
She attended his wedding, one of his weddings.
That's right.
Right.
And so they're familiar with each other, not just one candidate and another. So
But that can make
Okay.
for even more bitter opponents at times
It
when you
could,
know a
and-
person's strengths
Right.
and weaknesses and proclivities.
That's right.
Okay, so starting off, they both definitely went different ways. Hillary speaking about her dad's small business when asked by the moderator who became absent how she planned on bringing more jobs. And she spoke a lot about, again, her father's influence in her life, working in the fabric world, small businessman. She spoke a lot about new innovation, tech jobs, and then Trump didn't focus as much on creating new jobs, but focused on the jobs we are losing, according to him, to Mexico. He mentioned that a lot throughout the whole debate. What do you think about those different answers? And then he spoke about his father as well, giving him what he said was a small loan that Hillary came in and said, well, it was $14 million. So that's a perception of small. So what did you guys think about that first question about jobs?
I thought the jobs question, that being the first question, was sort of an easy softball to Trump. But I thought Hillary was pretty masterful in the way she threw the $14 million loans from his father to him.
And that shows the debate prep.
That's right.
Yeah, she got prepared for that.
She started out with looking for a way, I think, to get under his skin.
She also, I believe, in that question, if I remember correctly, she also gave the laundry list of here are a number of things that I want to do as president. Right. I think she included that in.
She did.
Perhaps just in case she didn't get back
just
to
to
it.
move the ball forward.
Right. In case you don't hear from me again, here's the things I want to do.
And to do some of the things we talked about yesterday, she offered some specifics in that, and did a little, again, that homework, getting into the specifics. And
innovation, technology, and equality in the workplace were three specific things she mentioned, and backed them up with plans. Trump did say, quote, "I will bring back jobs. You can't bring back jobs." Then started interrupting her, then went big after NAFTA.
Yeah, he's been critical of a lot of the trade agreements, which he says, and there's always two different schools of thought on these trade things, but you essentially open the borders and remove tariffs. That's basically what all these do. So you can, whether you build something in Mexico or America or China, there's not huge barriers to entry for those goods. The problem with that is that Trump has identified is that you sometimes will get jobs overseas because it may be cheaper to pay people to do something in China that's being done in South Carolina right now. The textile industry is a great example of that, which we had here. And so it's sort of a populist tone for him to take.
And he
to go
really went
against a lot of
after
these things,
President Clinton's involvement.
She supported the Trans-Pacific Partnership.
Correct.
And so he perceives that as a jobs killer.
Well, and he kept saying, your husband.
They actually are both for that. If I'm not mistaken. Or, excuse me, they're both against that.
Both against that
and,
now,
President Obama is for it.
Of course, Trump said Hillary wasn't against it until she heard me.
Well, she did change her mind on it.
She did. She initially supported it, and she no longer supports it.
And she did confirm that. Right. So what did you think about that, like where that question leading into going after NAFTA and President Bill Clinton's involvement in that, and then talking about, again, all these jobs being moved away from the U.S. in Trump's perspective instead of offering plans for bringing new jobs. Do you think he answered that question, or did we get lost? Is that where we started to get lost?
It went downhill from there.
Yeah.
Well, I think one of the things that he may have wanted to do with that is just one of the populism, as you mentioned earlier, is something that I think he wants to bring out, and the fact that a lot of people feel like their jobs, many of the jobs in the United States have gone away.
And a lot of those are blue-collar jobs, right?
Absolutely, and that's who he's playing to, and it has for the entire campaign, and so I guess, or I feel like he probably wanted to just sort of play to that audience and just say to them that, you know, this is important to me. I know it's important to you. I still care about this.
Yeah.
So.
Do you think that was smart on his end? Or?
Well, I mean, he's playing to his audience. So for him to bring that up, they're out there in the audience going, yeah.
Yeah.
But now, whether he answered the specific question, as neither of them did all night long, you know, that's another thing entirely.
She didn't miss many opportunities, but she did miss an opportunity there to mention his ties, his shirts, his suits, all the things that are made everywhere but the U.S.
Yeah, and that's the textile industry, as I said, was a big one. As we know here in Chattanooga and Dalton, you know, we used to have you can go to
Northeast Alabama.
Yeah, Northeast Alabama, formerly the sock capital of the world, no longer is, and a lot of those socks are now made overseas, for better or for worse. Now, the advantage, just so we're fair here, the advantage to that is for consumers, your socks cost a lot less now, comparatively, than they did before, because the labor costs are lower, and so that puts more money back in your pocket. But if you don't have a job, I guess you don't really care about whether socks are $2 a pair or $3 a pair. Exactly. So, you know, you've got two different schools of thought going on there.
Right, and pretty much, I guess this would have probably been 3 to 5 minutes in when the interrupting started and the name calling, pointing fingers, all of that. And then Hillary immediately went into that her website, HillaryClinton.com, had a fact checker available for people watching the debate. She also told Donald, quote, "I know you live in your own reality." So it started to get real.
Personal.
Got a little real. Then they went into tax plans. Prosperity was one of the issues the moderator, who is still involved at this point, asked about, and she said, hey, tax increases for the wealthy, and Trump said tax cuts for the wealthy. So definitely differing of opinion there.
Yes.
Yeah. What do you guys think about that?
Well, I mean, they just have
no surprise.
Right. I think both candidates had talked about their plans before, and Trump had in his a tax cut, and she in hers has plainly said that the rich will have to pay more taxes. So I don't think that was a surprise to anybody.
Okay. Do you think people were fact-checking a lot during this debate?
If they have their own personal fact checker?
I saw several today.
Too.
I know Politico was doing a really good job. I know NBC did one that had like 40 or 50 fact checks on both sides, although they predominantly targeted Trump. But yeah, there was quite a bit of journalism going on behind the scenes there.
New York Times had one going on.
Okay, and apparently her website too.
And HillaryClinton.com.
Okay.
Which we now know.
Okay. Now let's get into where things got heated, and a lot of people who were fact-checking or all over social media were really focusing on these things. There was a moment when Trump did get quiet when Hillary was referring to law enforcement and guns, recent protests we've reported on, for example, in Charlotte. She said that we need to bring back trust within communities and police, and quote, that everyone should respect the law and everyone should be respected by the law. So he did get quiet when she was speaking about that. It didn't come back for a while. That was the one point I noticed there wasn't interruption.
I hadn't thought about that, but you're right about that.
I think you have to go back to Nixon a little bit with sort of the silent majority, the law and order. I think I think he believes, and I'd love for you guys to jump in and tell me I'm wrong if I am, but I think he believes that there's a silent majority of people that still support law enforcement, despite some of these very public shootings of unarmed people that we've seen, and a lot of the Black Lives Matter stuff that's come about. I think there's still a lot of people who want the police to keep doing whatever it is that they're doing, and I think it's probably, now I'm speculating, I'm verging on speculation, but I would guess that you don't really say that in a debate, like that. I would guess that your best bet is just to stay out of it, because then you incite reaction on the other side. But I don't know. What do you guys think?
But later in the debate, he did get heavy into the stop and frisk.
Yeah.
He did,
which he
in
said
New
was
York,
not
the initiative
racial
in New York.
profiling, right?
Right. He
Said it worked. It was
Yeah.
great.
He said it was still constitutional, and a federal law has said it's not.
Not
I mean, a federal
constitutional.
court,
Yeah.
not the Supreme Court, but a federal court has said it's not constitutional.
Although it's interesting, we're doing something very similar to that here.
Explain. Will you
with the-
explain to what that is? Stop and frisk. Explain
Yeah.
the initiative in
It
New
means
York
they can stop you
under
and
Mayor
search you
Bloomberg.
if they
Right.
Without probable cause.
Yeah, without probable cause, which typically is the standard by which, if you don't have probable cause, so in other words, let's use weed. If the judge or if the police officer smells marijuana and they're willing to testify to that, then they can enter your residence and see, okay, are you so that would be considered probable cause. Or if they see an open container in your car of alcohol when they pull you over, that's probable cause to pull you out of the car and search you. What stop and frisk does is it eliminates that burden of proof on the police officer to have a cause to search you, and they can just say, you got that bow tie. I don't know. I think I'm gonna,
right.
if you don't mind standing
Look a
against the
little
wall, I'm gonna pat you down.
Put your hands on the
Yeah.
wall and let me go through your pockets.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's what, and that was done in Mayor Rudy Giuliani did that in New York, and a lot of people have talked about
Was
the
it
transformation.
Giuliani or
Wasn't it?
Bloomberg?
And it was the
Followed
Both.
into Bloomberg.
Okay.
Times Square was, to hear people tell it, sort of, I wasn't there, but a cesspool of prostitution and nudie movie theaters and people knifing one another in alleys, and now it's a major tourist destination.
So Trump was very
Some people
gung-ho for that.
credit his stop and frisk thing with that. Other people say no, that didn't work. It was just
That in fact it got better after stop and frisk stopped.
yeah.
So that was something the fact checkers were definitely going back and forth on, and then
I do think on his gun, if he was silent on the gun thing, that
Initially.
he probably
Initially.
probably missed an opportunity to reach out to the people who are for him and have backed him in this time to talk about guns and what Hillary Clinton has talked about, which she did later on about wanting to take guns, to have to take have more precautions about guns and things like that. Where I think that he could have reached out, or he could have said to the people who were supporting him that he was afraid that she was going to take away their guns, that kind of thing. Now that would have been an opportunity for him to say whatever it was that he would have said. Now,
But that would have opened him up for her to attack him for suggesting that the Second Amendment people take care of her.
But I don't think he really cared what
right.
he said when.
At that point. And back to taxes, not taxes increases for the wealthy or cuts, but their own taxes. A lot of you online were like, hey, did Trump just admit to never paying federal taxes? Did you guys catch
Yes.
that?
Pretty
He sort of
much.
said something under his breath, kind
He
of,
said-
or
he said-
between all of them.
That means I'm smart.
Right.
I feel like we're going to hear that
A lot.
potentially in a commercial for Hillary. Did you hear that part? Okay.
I'm learning as I go.
So a reporter asked him, a CNN reporter, after the debate was over, did you just say that you had never paid federal taxes? And he was like, I just don't like the way the government uses taxes. So he didn't really answer the question, but he said he
He's
didn't like the way
previously
the government
said
uses
something to the
taxes.
effect of, I think I spend my money better and employ more people or whatever than would happen if I gave that money to the government to spend, and that's one of the reasons I'm running for president. He said something to that effect before. Is that
That sounds
yeah.
right.
I mean, I'm paraphrasing heavily there, so
Okay.
that's not a quote, but
And he did actually quote say he hates the way government uses taxes.
yeah.
But this was another moment when Hillary was really pretty masterful on the debate stage, because she brought out that the tax question that he had not paid his taxes, and went through the litany list, ticked off the reasons why he might not have paid his taxes. Maybe he didn't make as much money as he claims. Maybe he's not been as charitable as he claims.
She did.
Maybe he didn't pay taxes.
And then he said to go look at his
financial disclosures,
and he said something like he had made $865 million, I believe. Was it million or billion this year, this past year? It was something pretty impressive, and so he put that out there, and then he immediately jumped on her not disclosing emails,
which she put to bed pretty quickly.
Right, she did say it was a mistake, quickly.
She also later zinged him back on the taxes question when he was talking about how the government spent its money and how the government maybe wasted money, squandered money, I think might have been his word. And she said, well, it wouldn't be a problem if you paid taxes. So that came up several times at several different intervals in the debate.
And Clint, what did you think about him jumping on the emails? And when she did say quickly it was a mistake, he said it was more than a mistake. And he really started speaking to the American people at that point, saying, and you all think that? And
right. Well, I think he could. Yeah. I think he could have kept on with that for a good while, and brought it up several other times. And I think that was one of the things that perhaps it was a missed opportunity for him to really get into the sort of the weeds on that and talk about that more, because the missing Lester Holt didn't even bring it up at all.
Didn't bring up the emails.
No, didn't bring it up at all.
Well,
and
that's shocking, actually.
That was a place where he could have.
The only time he did say is, "Do you want to respond to that?"
Right,
and
exactly.
she said it was a mistake. And then
and she's moved on.
I don't know if the rest of the country has, but I'm glad she has. That's good. That's good to know.
Something like that.
Right.
A lot of the country has.
Do you think that was a smart response on her end? A quick remark?
Yeah.
I do.
Yeah, I mean, take responsibility, admit guilt, and
say nothing more.
Yeah, I mean, why prolong it? Why continue to engage in something? It's not a winnable argument.
Not for her.
Why make it?
I mean, we've seen.
And that, of course, led immediately to the birtherism thing,
right?
Where he hasn't taken responsibility and won't let it move.
Another sort of unwinnable argument, since we've seen the birth certificate, and he did try to do a variant of that by
because
going
he came
out.
back and talked about how her campaign had sort of first brought this up with Sidney Blumenthal and two other officials from her campaign.
Shopped the story around, I guess, to who was it? Was it NBC? I can't remember who, but
that's all
McClatchy.
Disputable, though. I mean, certainly after the debate, they had people from her camp on saying that person had never worked on the campaign, so that
Blumenthal,
that
the
was
close advisor.
Right.
I think that's a bit of a stretch.
Okay, her current campaign manager was saying that, but. Those were the fact checkers. Like it's.
Well, that gets into
the Clinton campaign. Words have to be parsed.
Yeah, that's getting into the whole fact check thing we discussed yesterday, where one man's fact check is
another man's
fact
check. Exactly.
Fact check, but Holt did weigh in. We keep saying he was missing, but he did make some points that I made note of. He asked Trump, "What do you say about racial healing after this birth certificate question?" And Holt did say, you received the birth certificate years and years ago, and it's just now been being put to bed. Why? And he brought up the question, what do you say about racial healing? And Trump said, I say nothing. So,
which was sort of a dismissal to an entire population of America.
So
that I say nothing, I don't have anything to say to you. I think that was a huge failing on his part.
What would have been an appropriate response from his perspective, I wonder, to that?
Well, I mean, if he truly believed it, which, I mean, he didn't at this point have any reason not to, he could have said, I pursued that because I really believed it what was true, or there was some truth in it. Some of the indications that I had were that there were things out there that were a little testy, a little unsure, but, now I'm sure, and so, I can put that to bed and say, I know that President Obama was born in the United States. I mean, that's what he could have said.
Yeah, he kept saying he was satisfied with the birth certificate. So he never really was that
Well, it was,
confident
you know,
in his answer to
he,
that.
you know, this was about President Obama's birth certificate.
Right.
We had two campaign, you know, this is two candidates on there about the next president of the United States.
Right.
I think
Right.
I think that was sort of beyond, you know, where the campaign
Yeah.
needed, where a debate needed to be.
They got stuck there
Right.
for a little while. Yeah. Do you think people are irritated by that sort of verse,
Well,
you know?
I think there are a lot of people. This was my view anyway. That
Okay.
I would rather have had further questions about. I don't know. Pick three things, or you know, that report to either one of them: immigration or jobs, or they talked about jobs, but you know, any three other issues to talk about instead of the birth certificate. I mean,
But the birth certificate, is part and parcel race relations in America, which is a very real issue. So I don't think we can just say that the birtherism didn't have a place in the debate. The question, the way it was couched as a question in the first place, if my memory is right, is that it was couched in relation to race relations, which is a tremendous issue. And that's why his answer, I have nothing to say, that's why his answer
I say nothing.
was so terrible.
I'm not sure how they got into the birtherism part, whether Lester asked them that or whether they didn't. But if they had both talked about just race relations, then that, to me, would be a good issue to talk about, and how to improve them, how you bring the police in that, what part the police play in that. I would rather hear both of their answers to that, or a little bit more about both of their answers.
Because nobody likes unarmed people getting shot, and nobody likes riots in the streets and businesses being destroyed, and the things that flow from that. And I mean the whole thing. So how do you, whether you agree with one side or the other, it seems like a solution is called for somewhere in there. I mean, it's something worth addressing.
That's where
certainly.
Holt did ask the question, what do you say about racial healing?
Yeah.
So that, maybe he didn't take the question.
And his
correctly.
answer was total dismissal. And that polarization over race relations is what keeps being the headline rather than anybody talking about solutions. We never get to solutions because it gets wrapped up in the polarization.
Guns or police or
Right.
whatever.
Stop and frisk,
Right.
birtherism, it always gets picked up in that stuff, which is
Little subcategories, if you will. Yeah.
understandable, but we never get beyond it.
And then I really, watching this sort of unravel where we're losing track of the questions. The moderator, people on Twitter are saying they're on a manhunt for Lester Holt at this point. Then the two candidates just start really going for the jugular after the race conversation goes into Hillary went right into another diversity issue, which is women. She just went hard at him, saying, you've called women pigs, slobs, you've called pregnancy an inconvenience. So she just went there. That wasn't a question asked by the moderator. She just went at him. And at that point, some people on Twitter say he really lost his cool. He brought up Rosie O'Donnell saying, yeah, I did say those things about Rosie O'Donnell and she deserved it. And I think all of you know that. So it was kind of crazy to see.
He does not like Rosie O'Donnell.
To see them both going.
I think it's fair to say that.
That was toward the end of the debate, but
end,
it was almost uncomfortable for
It was just
people
kind
to
of off the
watch.
graph by that point.
Yeah.
And that's a shame. And I don't know whether, as I understand it, the debate rules this time were that you would ask the question to one candidate and it would be 2 minutes. Then the other person has 2 minutes.
That went out the door.
It went out the door, but it seems like in the previous debates that then you had maybe 30 seconds to respond to the other person's
Right.
answer. Then the other person maybe had 30 seconds to respond to that answer.
Rebuttal or
And so
something,
it was
yeah.
like a back, forth, and that was it. Then you stopped.
Then you moved on.
I don't know whether that
Yeah.
was, I don't think that was the case this time. I think, as I think I've read, that they had the 2 minutes, then the 2 minutes, and then it was up to the moderator to kind of explore with
Right.
them.
There was supposed to be a 10-minute discussion, and he
Open
did
discussion.
at certain times he'd be like, we have to move on,
Right,
we have to
and
move
I-
on, but they just
So I wonder
But
if they
I
would,
think that the rules of this debate were shaped after the criticism of previous debates and moderators that did not allow the candidates to get into a subject deeply enough.
The problem was he didn't direct them into the subjects that people really want to hear about because they don't know. We've heard about birtherism and emails and all these things for a while, but like you said, why didn't he direct that discussion into the economy or jobs?
Well, the flip side of that, though, I appreciate the fact that Lester Holt stayed out of the way of the conversation.
I think he may have felt like he had
we
to.
got, well, and what happened is that we got a better view of both of these candidates than we have gotten ever before in the previous debates.
But I think it also got so far off the rails that you sort of lost at least some of the subject matter that I think some Americans wanted to hear out there. It was really more about their policy ideas and things like that.
I'm interested in that.
But you're right. I mean, it sort of told sides
Who
of
they
them
were.
and you know, side issues and things like that.
What was really missing?
What?
Immigration. Did you hear a word?
No.
Did you hear a word
Which is
about
remarkable.
the law?
It's remarkable because immigration also ties into some of these free trade agreements where people are able to pass, both people and goods pass freely over borders, and there's only a couple ways of doing that. They either do flow freely or they don't, and those are very different ways of doing things, and with very different effects for the economy and for businesses and for workers.
There are two more, I believe, presidential debates, I think, and one vice presidential debate. The next one is a sort of a town hall format, and I don't know whether there is specific subject matter set up for those, but I thought the same thing, that immigration and several other things just weren't mentioned at all, and so it could be that perhaps the last one is all foreign policy, and that maybe immigration would be brought in as a subject for that one. I don't know, but
I don't either.
Yeah, we're all prepared, and there were a few other things people are talking about on the social media verse, Twitterverse. There was a point where Trump spoke about her stamina to be president, and she immediately fired back. As soon as he travels to 112 countries, he can talk to me about stamina.
And testifies for 11 hours before Congress.
Okay.
she probably didn't want to bring up
Wonderful
what
zinger.
she testified about, Benghazi.
There you go. Hey, maybe he should have
Speaking of
said
another
that.
missed opportunity.
Well, that might have been again in perhaps in the foreign policy debate. I don't know, but that was also not mentioned.
Yeah.
Good point.
So he was attempting to bring her health into the discussion, but I guess he didn't get very far.
She obviously has had some health problems, but she stood up there the entire time and did not cough that I was
And
aware
didn't
of.
cough, or didn't sniff, or didn't snort into
Well,
the
while he
microphone.
sniffed,
So the pneumonia is gone. She's burned out
I
the
don't know.
pneumonia with antibiotics.
That's right.
Okay.
Now she could have coughed away when the camera was, when
Yeah.
the mic or camera were not on. I don't
And
know.
he did also say, while I was out visiting all of these states and these people, you chose to stay
You took
home.
some days off.
Yeah, you took some days off, and he wasn't referring to the pneumonia thing. He was referring to when she says she was
Debate prep,
preparing,
yes.
and she said, I prepared for this debate as I have prepared to be president. So
That was
I
my
just-
favorite remark of the
that was
night.
your favorite remark.
I just think that was a non-issue. That he shouldn't have. I mean, he shouldn't. No, he shouldn't have said that. That's what I'm
Okay.
saying. That he shouldn't
No,
have said
he should have-
about the
shouldn't have brought
stamina.
up that.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a non-issue. They're both. I mean, he's 70 years old and she's 69 years old. We know they're not going to be all in.
They're not gonna
They
be
don't have
running
the health of a
Ironman
22 years. That's
competitions
right.
here.
Neither
Yeah.
one are running an Ironman. So I just think that was a non-issue.
Yeah, I mean, it'll become apparent. Like during the campaign, is one of the most grueling things. As anybody who's been
Right.
close to anybody who's worked on a campaign can attest. I mean, that's one of the most grueling things you can do. You don't get a lot of sleep. You're staying in strange beds, sleeping on strange pillows if you get to sleep.
Right.
You're always on the go. You're eating junk food.
You're shaking hands of
Yeah,
many
you're-
diseased people.
Yeah, I mean, if you can live through a campaign, you're probably going to be okay for the most part, unless something crazy happens.
I'm going to see what people on our Facebook page have to say about all of this today.
Well, there's a few comments about Lester Holt.
Okay.
Some people...
The manhunt for Lester Holt continues.
Yes. And we've got some people saying Marvin Trowbridge says blame the moderator for incompetence and ineptness with an exclamation point at the end of it. And then Gina Sanders Baker says Holt was strictly for Hillary. You could tell she does no wrong, he does all wrong. So some people were thinking he was a non-entity. Other people were thinking he was for Hillary. What do you guys felt like?
I felt like that the questions that were set up for him, for Trump, were more controversial, whereas the ones she got were a little bit more softball, more general questions. And then one of the news organizations I read this morning said that he got 6 follow-ups on hitting back on his questions, and she had 0. So, it did seem like a little bit that he was in her corner, but, who knows?
Now, the other interesting, I had somebody comment to me who did watch the entire debate. They said, and perhaps this was part of her plan, but he would go off, apparently, on her, sort of being aggressive. And she just sort of sat there and let him be him. And I wonder how much of that was something she wanted to do, and how much of that was, if just kind of, here he is, here's Donald Trump, I'm just going to be quiet and let him.
She did say, you just heard all that craziness.
Yeah. I wonder if that was part of her plan.
I think 2 things were going on there.
Yeah.
One, what you just said is that, the more quiet she was when she wasn't answering a question, the more he could sort of ramble on and be the
sort of unpredictable
guy he was. 2, I bet in their debate prep that they told her it doesn't matter what he says, it doesn't matter what he calls you, it doesn't matter how angry he gets, you just stand there and take it. Mm-hmm. And because the last thing that they probably told her is you do not want to...
You don't want to be Jeb Bush.
Well, you don't want to erupt or seem non-presidential or seem, harpy or whatever, whatever verb, whatever adjective you want to use about her.
She did break a few times, though, and, those were Pam's favorite moments when she said, "Hey, you want to visit 112 countries and say I don't have any stamina?"
But I mean,
she was charming when she did it.
Yeah.
She
There's one
smiled.
adjective.
She smiled when she did it.
Beauty's in the eye of the beholder, right?
Right.
Why is it that when women come back, it's an insult? I don't understand it.
No, I'm just saying she didn't go over.
She was
the
not
top.
flustered as he has done, and as some of the Republican people did, because when he was he got them to rise up. He got a rise out of people, right? When he was doing the Republican debates, he didn't really. She may have responded, and she may have had a rejoinder, but I don't know that it was because he got a rise out of her. I think it was because she knew what to say.
That's just another debate. When a man acts this way, he's tough. But you know what? Some people said he was a bully on Twitter.
Yep.
But when a woman acts that way, she's another word that starts with a B. So that's another debate. Age-old debate.
Speaking of Lester Holt, he's a registered Republican.
Okay. Well, what do you think about that?
Registered Republican. So
surprised?
I think that's going to surprise several of our commenters.
You can register anything you want, but it's how you vote. But who knows? We don't know how he voted.
And we do have, for our Facebook land, Times Free Press, really divided. Glenda Bagley said Mr. Trump did exactly what he wanted to. Choose with one O, though. Just letting you know. Last night, sorry.
We edit things, language.
We edit conversations.
And a lot of people spelled Hillary's name wrong. Actually, on some tickets to Hofstra last night, there were official tickets printed incorrectly with her name spelled with one L.
If you're typing it, though, sometimes you can
the
do
L
it.
key.
Right.
The L doesn't. That's right. It's easy to miss that second.
That's right.
But can you believe it's unbelievable at that level? There were people had pictures of them all over social media. But anyways, going back to Glenda's comment, she said Trump ran Hillary, spelled correctly, out of ammunition to use against him in the next debate. Now, anything she says against him will be like a broken record, and he still has millions of issues about her to bring up. So that's someone definitely Trump heavy.
So they heard what they thought they wanted
would be
to
the
hear.
worst,
right?
I guess.
And then we have Martha Henegos Price, sorry, I know I'm mispronouncing that, to say, in response to Clinton saying Trump pays 0 in federal taxes, quote with his picture, "That makes me smart." See, we said that one's not gonna. She's not gonna let go of that one.
Yeah.
People aren't gonna let go of that.
Yeah,
one.
it's already in memes and things like that.
And on Twitter, comedian Amy Schumer compared Trump to that.
Here now?
Yeah.
Local
Yeah.
Chattanooga.
No, I'm
Just
going.
kidding,
I'm
no.
going to the Twitterverse now, and the people, the celebrities, because they're coming in very hard either side. They do at this point, anyways. She compared Trump to the guy you want to get rid of, walk away from at the bar, where you're like, oh, this guy, I got to get away from
What's
this
your
guy.
sign?
Or you buy him another drink.
Right. So
Instant intimacy.
yes. So it's, people are definitely involved. That there's no debating that. People are following these two right now.
And on that note, I wanted to pull back from the debate just for a second. Do you think it's good for democracy that people are getting so involved? I feel like a lot of people are interested in this campaign, or is it, do we have two flawed candidates and this is the worst thing that's ever happened? How do you balance
Yes,
that?
and
Because it's almost like you can't have one without the other. You have a really interesting contest here between two deeply flawed candidates. I think it's fair to say.
I'm not sure. I think they're any more flawed this time than they've ever been before.
Okay.
We
All right.
just didn't really
We didn't look as closely, maybe?
take everybody apart in
Yeah.
the same way that we have done with these two people.
Okay.
I'm not sure. I think either of them is any more flawed than
So you think they're maybe under a closer microscope this time around?
I do. And because of the internet, Twitter, Facebook,
Yes.
everybody.
A lot more opinions floating around out there.
Absolutely.
It is the most tweeted political event in history, with 10.3 million tweets during the broadcast.
of course, I think about that though, that as Twitter, continues to grow, that like the next one will be the most tweeted.
Will be on Twitter.
Or the most the most tweeted in 2020, the first debate in 2020, then the most tweeted in 2024.
I think the whole thing should be done on Twitter. They don't even have to be in the same room, and they could just sit. They can sit in their pajamas, sip scotch, and just tweet at one another, and it'll save us all a lot of time.
Wow. Talk about flawed.
Maybe that'll be 2 presidential elections from now.
Wow, there's just, you could read these tweets all day.
Well, one thing, you can talk about them being flawed or not flawed, but the one thing that we do know is that our votes, the American people's votes, put them where they are today.
Yeah.
So whether you think they're flawed or not flawed, or the perfect candidate or not the perfect candidate,
One of them is going to get elected, most likely.
one of them is going to get elected. And
it's nobody's fault but ours.
Yeah.
right, exactly. So
And that's why we have primaries, supposedly, is to kind of sift through these folks.
although I'll bet you'll see some changes in primary rules after this year.
Well, this year, just to
What
get a
we did from
little
last time.
inside
You're right.
baseball, I know the Republicans had changed the rules because they were worried about Tea Party types.
That's right.
I don't know. I think the Democrats have this sort of a similar thing with the super delegates that
That'll
is
probably get
designed.
changed also.
That is both parties put in rules this year that were designed essentially to protect the establishment against insurgencies, whether they be from people who are more liberal or more conservative than the base. And I wonder how they feel about that now. I guess.
I know a lot of Bernie Sanders
Yeah.
fans are not feeling so good about
Yeah.
that right now,
Yeah.
and perhaps other Republican candidates as well.
So let's talk about somebody's gonna win. Someone's gonna be the president, and that question was asked to both of them from Lester Holt. Lester Holt asked. I made note of a lot of his questions, so he was present.
He got back from the restaurant. perhaps, if he-
From tweeting,
He was
whatever
feeling a
he
little
was,
sick,
whatever
a
he
little
was
under the
doing. But he said, "Will you support the other candidate if they are to win the presidency?" And Hillary immediately came back with, "Well, I support democracy, so yes." And then it took Trump a little while to say, "Yeah, sure," So
I think he said he absolutely would.
absolutely, yes,
Something like
okay.
that. But
After a little
Right,
bit.
but I think what maybe Lester was going for, that maybe they answered differently, was that would you contest some, if there's a close race or something like that. I think there was some, I don't
Verbiage
know. Trump maybe had
used.
said
Okay.
something about, which I'm not sure about.
Okay.
That he may have said something about if there's
Well, he
problems
talked
in
about
some of
rigged
the rigged, and
election.
if he felt like one of the states was rigged or something like that, that he might make some challenge to it. So I
Right.
think
Yeah.
that's what he was asking
I think
about.
he had said, I'm going to these rallies and I've got 10,000, 40,000 people at these rallies and I know these people out here support me.
And he
you
felt
know,
he's the person
yeah,
to
so,
do that.
So if you know, I'm losing, I know I should be winning some of these states. So if I lose these states, you guys are all here, you know there's something crooked going on. I think was his, I think that's what he was saying. I don't know if those aren't his
Okay.
exact words, but does that sound right? Okay.
Yeah, I think he was talking about that, especially when she had a larger lead.
She was polling better than he
She was
was,
polling better?
but he was still drawing these big crowds, and so I think he was, drawing a distinction there, saying, well, where are all these Hillary supporters at her events, and look at all the ones that I've got here at my events.
Right, and he was also mentioning that he hasn't spent as much money
He's very proud of
on the
that.
campaigning. That yes,
He's economizing.
he's a money man. He
we
doesn't.
We have a
debate
question,
that.
and I know we're running long
Yeah.
on time, so we got to close it up. But Eric Vaughn, thanks for your question. He said, "Who, in your opinion, showed the greatest lack of a grasp on factual information?" What did he say? Yeah, who was the least factual during the debate? Is what you're asking.
I'm not
Eric.
a fact checker. Go ahead. Opinions.
I don't know whether he's asking about fact check or to me, Trump was about like he was during the Republican presidential debates. He didn't go into as many details as Hillary did, and so by that certainly it'd be Trump. And I think he's the generalist guy. Now, would I have wanted someone who would be more detailed in his answers? Yes. So if that's him, then I guess it is. So that's what I would say.
Would you want a president to be more detailed in their answers to the American people?
Sure, but presidents, when they govern in different ways. You take, I don't want to go into this because
Right.
we're too short on time, but
Right.
you take a Jimmy Carter who was very minutely interested in
policy
every
discussion.
detail and everything. People look at him as a sort of a failed president now, whereas Ronald Reagan, the next president,
He was more of a chairman of the board.
Yeah, he sort of had large vision and didn't go into the weeds on things, and people consider him a good president, or many do. So
I've heard
I
that
don't know.
response a lot.
Yeah, so
There's different governing styles, and you can have I think some of the presidents that have not been as detail oriented, if Trump were to be president, I think he would lay down a broad, here are my broad policies. Now, I'm going to have smart people, the smartest people I can find, go actually implement those policies, who are experts on those things, because nobody can be an expert on
Pam
everything.
is listening quietly like Hillary.
I think, well, the Clintons actually, since Hillary is a Clinton, they were very detail oriented during their thing. They were
She's the wonks.
Yeah, they were well known. The Clintons were well known for getting into everything and going to every meeting and being super involved. Hillary, of course, very involved in an early version of health care reform and carrying the torch on that. So her style is pretty much the polar opposite of Trump's, I guess it's safe to say.
No debate. They are two very different people.
I think that you want your president to be very prepared to do their homework. I mean, I did a little homework, we all did, just for this.
Yeah.
Okay, you did. But you want your president
Go on that side of the
to be prepared, and Trump was not prepared last night.
Yeah.
Whether that plays into whether he was factual or not, or less factual than usual, I don't know, but he was not prepared and she was.
So who won? Who won this debate?
I think she did.
I think she probably won on what, if you could compare what they wanted to do, she probably won on what would be better for what each one wanted to do.
Okay.
Could do.
Honest answers, again, from our editorial and opinion editors here at the Times Free Press. And we will continue to follow this and analyze the heck out of it. So you guys weigh in with us. That's what we want. We want to hear what you want us to be observing and reporting on. And that's what we're trying to do for you. So continue the dialogue with us, and we will find out when the next two debates are, and we'll be back with you. So the ideas are welcome. We're putting this one to bed for now, and I'll see you back at 11.
Thanks, guys.